Coming up today, stocks stage a massive rebound. Is the volatility now over? A record amount of crypto traders wiped out. Rare earth stocks surge higher. The national security trade is now on. Third quarter earnings up on deck, and the historic milestone achieved across the world today. It's a great day, guys. Let's go. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Market Review. I'm sure all our portfolios are feeling a little better today. After that huge sell-off on Friday, we've had one of the biggest bearish to bullish flips I've ever seen in just 2 trading sessions. As we sold off hard on Friday, thanks to a reignited trade war between the US and China, swapping barbs with each other. But then Trump came out over the weekend and cooled things down, saying, don't worry about China, it'll be all fine. President Xi just had a bad moment. He doesn't want depression for his country, and neither do I. The US wants to help China, not hurt it. Now, a lot of people see this as the so-called taco trade. Trump always chickens out. But I think a lot of people out there struggle with understanding high-level strategy, as this is more like classic art of the deal move, the book Trump wrote almost 40 years ago. As he's done thousands of deals, and placing that threat of 100% tariffs on China raised the price of their move, dialed up the stakes, set the stage high so we can pull back to arrive at a deal. Now, reassuring us with this post, he's keeping American markets propped up, because if not, the Chinese would have more leverage over America if our markets are cratering. But no doubt we're getting some great memes out there today. Shown this one here before. You have to look at the fundamentals and technicals. Nowadays, the biggest influence in markets is without a doubt Trump. But does that mean all the volatility is now over? We're back to the good times? Well, maybe, but maybe not. There could still be a few more bumps and jolts out there. The good news is we've also seen a de-escalation from China as well, with the Ministry of Commerce from China saying the export controls on rare earth metals last week weren't a complete ban, and that licenses would be granted for eligible application. So what I think we've been seeing is posturing going into the deadline, November 10, the 90-day extension, to get an official US-China trade agreement. Both sides trying to use their leverage to squeeze the other for the best outcome of a deal. I think Trump's right. None of them want a big, nasty, prolonged trade war or global meltdown in their economies. Trump's just trying to rebalance the scales of the most unbalanced trade relationship we've ever seen in history between the US and China. And of course, China doesn't want to give up their unfair advantage, or at least not give too much of it back. And let's not forget, it is the month of October, and we tend to see higher volatility. And just looking at the chart of the S&P 500, no doubt a strong bounce, but we only finished about halfway up the big red candle on Friday. I'd say technically at least, to get the all clear, we'd have to take out Friday's high, above 67.63. Till then, we could very well bump around and consolidate, potentially even test Friday's lows at some point this week, even though fundamentally, for sure, tensions have cooled. And again, just as a reminder for us investors, tolerance for uncertainty is the most valuable human trait. The greatest rewards in life go to those who can show up every single day, even when the reward's uncertain. The one who can tolerate the most uncertainty is the one who will eventually win. And that's quite often the path of successful investing. A lot of people think it should be linear, always just up and to the right, maybe a step down, then back to 2 steps up. Whereas quite often it looks like this, just as we've experienced over this past weekend. And technically speaking, the market making a sharp fall from all-time highs isn't all that bad. Looking at that pattern we got on Friday, most of the time 6 months to 12 months later, we're still higher. Market recently sitting at all-time highs bodes well for forward returns. But unfortunately, millions of crypto traders can't say the same thing, because a lot of them have actually been wiped out and are learning the hard way to not use leverage at all, ever. None of my stock and ETF portfolios use leverage. You could say I use leverage in options, but not really, because I'm always delta neutral or thereabouts. With many risk-defined trade, you give the market an opportunity to wipe you out. It's just a matter of time before it does. And so apparently that sharp fall on Friday caused a record $19 billion in crypto liquidations, the largest single-day wipeout in crypto history. Even though Bitcoin and Ethereum only came off 10 or 15% from highs, apparently a lot of these altcoins came off 50, 70%, even further. And so even just using the smallest amount of leverage with those types of moves is enough to wipe out many after that surprise announcement from Trump. Which again, we're getting some great memes being born out of this. Guy riding a bike with a stick. Investing is a great way to build wealth. He levers up 20 times on Fartcoin, effectively putting that stick in his front wheel, crashing himself, and then as usual, blaming it on Trump. Another one, Warren Buffett, 1956, started with 100,000. Nowadays he's worth about 150 billion. Crypto guys, 9 a.m. starting with 100,000. Fast forward 1 hour, they've got $150. May seem dramatic, but I've actually seen stories on X of this exact same thing. Apparently some guy's been in crypto for years and years, even built up millions, only to see it all wiped out because again, they're learning the hard way not to use leverage. Now let's move it on to a more serious note of the environment that we're now in because of what we've seen China do. China severely limit the West's ability to access rare earths, critical for the development of many products and industries. Not only with their own export controls, but actually reaching out to their partners around the world and trying to get them to also block the export of rare earths to Western countries, as they're directly trying to limit our strong growth in tech, in addition to defense. As China's made it absolutely clear they're trying to overtake America and become the world's #1 superpower. We just heard some comments from US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We have aggressively pushed back against China's export controls. That was a provocative move. There was substantial communication over the weekend. There'll be more meetings. They're neither going to command nor control us. We've already been in touch with allies and meeting with them this week. This is China versus the world. We won't let China export restrictions go on. We expect support from India and others. We believe China is open to discussion on this. If not, we have substantial levers we can pull. We could move more aggressively than China has. So it's really up to China. They're trying to really cut us off here. But like Scott Bessent said, we're not just going to stand there and take it. And talking about supply chains and rare earths, he said they're going to do the equivalent of Operation Warp Speed to tackle processing. It's now all hands on deck. This is a massive national security issue that requires it to be quickly and forcefully addressed because China does have dominance and monopolies on many different key components of technology supply chain that they're now leveraging. And so it's no surprise to hear the Pentagon over the weekend now announce new plans to start stockpiling critical minerals. Similar moves to what we saw out of their oil embargo back in the 70s, announcing a strategic oil reserve. The same will be done critical minerals to directly counter China. And that's because in addition to a lot of new technologies, electric vehicles, solar panels, robotics, even chips, rare earths play an important role in defense military asset. There's 418 kilos, which is about 900 pounds of rare earths used in an F-35 fighter jet. 2,600 kilos, about 5,500 pounds of rare earth elements in a DDG-51 destroyer ship. And again, even more in submarine. Very important stuff. No surprise to see rare earth stocks absolutely rip today. This very nascent industry in the States has now become a very important and big and urgent national security issue. America and the West has been far too over-reliant on China for rare earths for too long now. And this is something I've been talking about for about a year and why I invested in a rare earth stock earlier this year for my Stock Picks members. And so like I've been saying, I expect to see more deals with rare earths. After the pick I gave out to members on Sunday, we now own 3 of these rare earth stocks. And the one that gets me the most excited is Idaho Strategic Resources, the largest rare earth elements landholder in the state, with a big claim on the Idaho rare earth belt. No surprise to see the stock up another 11% today. Me and my Stock Picks members now up about 200% on it, but unbelievably the company still doesn't even have a market cap of $1 billion, and this could quickly become one of the most important companies in America to help fast track and accelerate domestic rare earth production. Now we're also seeing titans of industry like JPMorgan once again join hands with the president to really get behind this national effort to deleverage from China, re-onshore production, and become more self-reliant and take away China's leverage. Issuing a press release on their website today saying they're launching a $1.5 trillion security and resiliency initiative to boost critical industries. That's a huge number. Straight away, they're going to invest $10 billion off their balance sheet into companies and hire a bunch of new bankers to raise the necessary finance to get behind this national security effort. With the CEO Jamie Dimon saying today, it has become painfully clear that the United States has allowed itself to become too reliant on unreliable sources of critical minerals, products and manufacturing, all of which are essential for our national security, as China's just showed their hand. Because if they're willing to do this in economic trade deal negotiation, you can imagine what they would do in a full-blown military war. And so it's good to see the world's largest bank get very much behind this effort in a big way, directly investing and helping to raise finance to put a strong tailwind behind 27 critical industries. Everything from advanced manufacturing, battery storage, cybersecurity, nuclear, solar, shipbuilding, space, pharmaceuticals. The list goes on, as this is now a big dominant theme in the stock market that's actually been building for a little while. With Morgan Stanley actually coming out with a national security index, companies deemed to be of strategic national importance. With many rare earth stocks on here, like Idaho Strategic, MP Materials that already got a deal with the Pentagon, and others involved in nuclear, uranium, and interestingly, also Tesla. So keep an eye on these stocks, take a screenshot screenshot if you need, because I can imagine as long as the market holds up, the dips will be bought on these stocks when they pull back. Because like I've been saying, China is working as hard as they can to overtake America, where they already have in some key areas. And we just heard that from the Ford CEO, who recently visited China and saying on the AI and robotics race, if we lose this, we do not have a future at Ford. China added 295,000 industrial robots last year. America only added 34,000 and the UK 2,500. That's why we need Operation Warp Speed to reindustrialize America. That's why we really need to get behind Elon Musk and his companies and others like Palmer Luckey with Anduril, so America can retain the lead in AI and also very soon robotic. And to do that, we need a lot of energy, a lot of capacity, a lot of government support, and ideally less haters and critics trying to bring their home country down, as unfortunately many people would rather see Trump and Elon burn to the ground than them succeed on their ambition and help keep the West out in front. And so the tailwinds for the rare earth sector are pretty much as strong as you can get. No surprise to see the ETF Remex, which we've got in our ETF portfolio service, was up 14% today and continuing to rip after hours, as it's no doubt got the full weight of the US government behind it. And that's because we're in the middle of a global arms race. Trillions of dollars will be invested, not only just rare earths, but AI, energy, defense, space, quantum, nuclear, robotics. And that's because the stakes are higher than ever. Geopolitics plus a supply chain panic is the perfect squeeze cocktail. And as my Stock Picks members know, I've already positioned our portfolio for this national security trade. And that's why just in the regular session today, we were up almost 6%. Multiples of what the market was up. And now comparing to the small cap benchmark, 65% time weighted returns versus 18% since June last year. The Vanguard Small Cap Index Fund, and just looking at simple returns, I'm happy to say our Stock Picks portfolio is now up more than 4x of the market in that time. You won't find any other YouTuber who has done the same thing for their members, even though they have hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, trying to sell their viewers complete crap and scams that just lose them money. Same with the ETF portfolio. Monster day today, as it too is invested in national security themes, reclaiming all of Friday's losses and some, now up 8% when the benchmark total world stock index is actually down a little bit. And so of course we will see volatility and pullbacks, but I do think this national security trade has years left in it. It's a theme I've been investing in all year and will continue investing in because I got the tailwind of the biggest entity in the world behind our portfolio, and that's the US government, who is now very proactive in investing in America's industries and companies because again, the stakes have never been higher. We're also just on the cusp of third quarter earnings, which should be strong. No doubt expectations are also strong going into it. It'll be kicked off by the banks tomorrow. JPMorgan, Wells, BlackRock, and Citi. Followed with a few more on Wednesday. We get to hear from Taiwan Semi on Thursday, which if China really wanted to dial it up, they could do something against Taiwan Semi. And that for sure is still a tail risk, which the stock markets would sell off hard if that were to happen. Otherwise, going into mega cap tech later this month, most of them should beat on expectation, as we've still got plenty of momentum in earnings and AI deals. And according to famed investor, billionaire fund manager Howard Marks, he says he doesn't see mania in the market right now. Thinks the S&P is expensive, but the quality of companies are much better. And he's not calling the market a bubble, which was interesting to hear as we approach the fourth year of this bull market. Typically, the third year can be quite anemic, and the fourth year can often be a lot better. In fact, we'd have to go back to the early 50s to see the fourth year of a bull market that actually finished lower, not by much either. And the fact is, we have technically had 3 bear markets in the last 5 years. Early 2020, 2022, and technically earlier this year, the S&P did touch 20% off its highs. The Russell 2000 actually came off 30%. So if we did get another one soon, that would be unusual. And somewhat related to financial markets today, but more important for the world overall, was the historic peace deal that has just been signed in the Middle East. The Gaza peace plan, with the leaders of the Middle East joining Trump and signing it today, which is good for financial markets because wars can spike oil, the biggest cost input into the global economy. It can shake confidence, and this has probably played a role in why gold's been rallying so much, and fears that it could spill over. We've actually heard a lot of praise for Trump helping to broker this. Prime Minister of Pakistan said if it wasn't for Trump, this couldn't have been done. Similar words from the Egyptian president saying Trump is the only one who could have brought peace to the Middle East. They needed a strong broker to help get it done. Piers Morgan as well, saying getting the release of all remaining Israeli hostages is one of the most historic achievements, and now calling out those that call Trump the new Hitler, with literally the front page of the Jerusalem Post saying God bless the peacemaker. Even billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman Mann, our president of peace. A lot of people didn't see this coming, nor did they want to see it coming. Even Stephen Smith, who was a Trump critic, said there's no doubt he's done more than practically almost any admin when it comes to ending conflicts around the world, blaming the prior admins for the war in Ukraine. Really surprising to see Time magazine, which again have been a long-term critic of Trump, sharing their next front page his triumph. And one of the most surprising coming from Democratic President Bill Clinton, saying that Trump and his admin deserve great credit in getting this agreement done. And so I've just got to say, following American politics closely for quite a few years now, it's just amazing how the narratives flip. Because back in 2016, the consensus back then was Trump's the most dangerous man in the world. He's going to cause World War III, which couldn't have been further from the truth. Again, you just look at the data in Trump's first term, looking at the global geopolitical risk index, it was actually downtrending his whole first term. Then we got a new US president right here. Then it started uptrending again. Now, no doubt, it's going to start downtrending again. And again, this does play into market because after America's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, it emboldened the Russians to invade Ukraine, shot geopolitical risk up, and that created markets at the time, spiked volatility, and 2022 was a tough year in the market. Along with oil spiking, adding to inflation, caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, not to mention the loss of life from the wars that we've seen being created during the last admin. And so I agree with this post. I think it's time for people with Trump derangement syndrome to admit they were wrong, because the fact is, he is the only US president that hasn't started a new war, nor has he seen a new war start underneath his leadership. He's brokered more peace deals than any other president, and I know many of his critics and those that suffer from the real condition of TDS have a hard time accepting this, as I think many of them would actually rather see the wars continue than Trump being able to stamp his name on brokering the end to them. But again, this is just the facts out there that I'm reporting. I don't need to take sides. He has helped broker an end to 8 wars now. And you know, it's a little unfortunate because I'm sure, like plenty of you out there around the world, I too have some family and friend members who suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, without knowing it, as there's plenty of it down here, even in our media. But whenever you hear them talk about Trump, they literally just repeat mainstream media headlines, like Trump is a racist, Trump's Hitler, he's this, he's that, blah, blah, blah. But when you ask them why they think that, or ask for some details to back up their claim, they draw a blank because they don't have a clue what they're talking about. But instead, they've literally been brainwashed to think that way. Like somehow Biden and Camilla were better for the world. And just how close we came for there being a different outcome. It was only a year ago. They tried to kill him twice, but as history would have it, it wasn't meant to be. Now, of course, there's just one big one left to try and end, which he has been, Ukraine. He literally rolled out the red carpet for Putin back in August, trying to get a peace deal, but Putin still got other ideas. 2 days afterwards, sent the largest bombardment of missiles and drones into Ukraine. So no doubt there's still risks there in Ukraine, but hopefully, and for the sake of all the innocents on both sides, we can see that war being peacefully ended as well, which again is just great news for the markets. It's not going to spike oil, it's going to calm tensions, restore confidence, and hopefully maybe even the States and Russia can start trading again, because that's typically the best way to prevent wars, and why we hopefully don't see a large-scale conflict between the US and China, because they both very much need each other. But when countries don't need each other, that's when wars are more likely. But no doubt we're still very much in an economic war with China, the fight for global AI dominance, also taking away their leverage with rare earths. So if there is a war, they don't have that card, which is more likely to be a war if they do have that advantage. So again, it's peace through strength and negotiations, and hopefully we see a similar deal in Ukraine in the coming months. Will be good for all those that are involved. And it would be nice if there were less haters that would rather see Trump burned to the ground than him being able to help put an end to all these wars like he has done. So no doubt I've triggered many people by presenting all those facts, but honestly, I just don't really care. And that's why a lot of my viewers and members come to this channel, because I give the no BS take. I tell it how it is. I speak my mind. I'm not trying to massage the ego, sit on the fence like others, and play it safe. I'd very much rather just tell it how it is, speak my mind, and let the cards fall where they do. And at the end of the day, let my results do the talking. That's all for the Daily Market Review today. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again this time tomorrow. Cheers.